Have you noticed how people aren't necessarily stopping spending money? They're just becoming a lot more selective about where they spend it. And honestly, I think that's one of the biggest economic stories in America right now. Hey everybody, welcome back to American Affordability. I'm Daniel. And now that we're getting into summer here, Memorial Day's passed and a lot of people are taking vacations. Kids are off of school. They're planning family get-togethers, heading to the beach, going to concerts, just trying to enjoy some time off. I'm taking a little long weekend trip here today, actually, but I've been noticing something lately. People are not necessarily stopping their spending. They're just becoming much more selective about where they spend their money. And I think that's an important distinction. A lot of families they're not saying we're never going on vacation again, right? They're saying maybe we'll take a shorter trip. And they're not saying we're never having people over again. They're saying maybe we'll keep it smaller this year. People aren't saying, we're never eating out. They're saying maybe we'll skip the expensive restaurant and go somewhere more affordable. These are common themes that you're hearing. Just listen to conversations around you. These are things that people are saying. That's the pattern that I'm seeing personally and across the economy right now, just in the research I'm doing. People are making trade-offs. And a lot of those trade-offs tell us a lot about where consumers are financially. For example, I recently read about a woman who was planning a summer cookout for around 30 people, and she priced out hamburgers, drinks, fruit trays, all the normal gathering food that you'd expect. And then she looked at the total, and just feeding everyone was going to cost well over $300. So she adjusted. What'd she do? She invited fewer people. She also switched from hamburgers to hot dogs. She asked some of her guests to bring side dishes, bring a dish to pass, right? Now, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's a perfect example of what many Americans are doing right now. They're not eliminating fun. They're just downsizing it. They're making things work within their budget. And honestly, I think that's becoming the new normal for a lot of families. Inflation, it may not be making headlines every day like it was, maybe more recently, because there's a lot of other news stories going on right now. But the effects are still being felt. As we've already talked about in my first videos, food costs more, insurance costs more, utilities cost more, housing costs more. And while incomes have risen for some people, it often feels like expenses have risen right alongside them, right? And that's why so many households are becoming much more intentional with their spending. They're asking themselves a simple question, and that is it worth it, right? Is this worth it? And increasingly, if the answer is no, they're walking away. I see this in my own life too. There are things I still spend money on because I enjoy them or because I think they're worth it. But there are other things that I've cut back on because the value, it just isn't there anymore. And I don't think I'm alone in doing that. Right now, gas prices are a good example. I recently read about a family that canceled a road trip because the fuel costs alone made the trip difficult to justify. And there was another person that talked about cutting back on buying beef because prices had risen so much. And again, these aren't necessarily major sacrifices by themselves, but when enough of these decisions pile up, they start changing consumer behavior across the entire economy. People take fewer trips, they drive less, they eat out less often, and they shop more carefully. And businesses, they notice. One thing I found interesting is that consumer spending and consumer confidence don't always tell the same story as the stock market. I mean, the stock market can be doing great. Corporate profits can be strong, but that doesn't automatically mean that the average household feels financially secure. The stock market is important, but that's one piece of the economic picture. Most people don't judge the economy based on the S&P 500. They judge it based on their grocery bill, their utility bill, their insurance bill, and then obviously for a lot of us too, our rent or our mortgage payment. That adds up quick, right? And that's what shapes their day-to-day experience. Living here in Tampa, I see this firsthand. The beaches over in St. Pete and Clearwater, just across the bay here, they're busy, right? A lot of people. The Riverwalk, downtown Tampa, still packed all the time. Parks are full of people. I mean, I'm on a beautiful walking trail here, Upper Tampa Bay Trail. There's always people on it. Communities are still drawing crowds, but those are also some of the most affordable things that people can do. And I don't think that that's a coincidence, because when groceries cost more, gas costs more, insurance costs more, housing costs more, free starts looking pretty attractive. Recent earnings reports from major retailers, they tell a similar story. Consumers are still spending money. They're just spending it differently. Walmart, Target, and other retailers, they've all talked about customers becoming more price conscious. People are comparing prices. People are looking for discounts. They're switching brands. They're hunting for value. In fact, Walmart has announced plans to reduce prices on thousands of products. Target is expanding its selection of lower cost items. Other retailers are doing the same thing. Why? Why? Because they recognize what consumers are doing. It's in the data, right? People aren't automatically buying the brand they've always bought. They're comparing options. I mean, I do it myself. They're asking whether the premium version is really worth the extra money. And increasingly, they're now deciding that it isn't. One survey found that 60% of consumers abandon a previously preferred brand because of higher prices. I know I've done it. Think about that. Brand loyalty is becoming less important than affordability. Consumers are basically saying, I don't care what brand it is. I care whether it's worth the price. And that's especially true in grocery stores. Many shoppers are switching to store brands, discount stores, warehouse clubs like Costco and Sam's Club, and other low-cost alternatives. So in many cases, they're discovering the cheaper option works just fine, something that many people have known for a while. Even households earning over $100,000 per year are becoming more price sensitive. And that tells me this isn't just a lower income issue, it's happening across much of the income spectrum. And one thing I found particularly interesting is that consumers are still spending the money on the things that they genuinely value. If people believe they're getting a good experience, a quality product, or something meaningful, they're often willing to pay for it. What they're cutting out are the things they don't view as worth the cost anymore. And I think that's the biggest lesson from everything we're seeing right now. Consumers aren't necessarily broke, they're becoming more selective. They're prioritizing. They're making trade-offs. They're asking harder questions before opening their wallets. And honestly, that's probably a rational response to the environment we're living in. When prices rise faster than people are comfortable with, consumers adapt. And that's exactly what we're seeing today. Some are taking fewer vacations. Some are driving less. Some are switching brands. And some are eating out less often. Others are simply just looking for more free ways to enjoy their time. None of those decisions are necessarily dramatic, but taken together, they tell an important story about where the economy is and how people are feeling. And maybe that's the real takeaway. People aren't giving up on having fun. They're not giving up on enjoying life. They're just becoming more intentional. And in a way, that's probably what this economy is forcing us all to do. We have to decide what truly matters to us and spend our money accordingly. So I'm curious what you've noticed in your own life. Have you changed how you spend money over the past few years? Are there things you've cut back on? Or are there areas where you're still willing to spend because you think they're worth it? Let me know down in the comments. So if you found today's discussion helpful, I'd appreciate a like and of course a subscription if you would. It really does help the channel grow and it helps more people find these conversations. Keep learning, keep adapting, and keep moving forward. That's all you can do, right? I'll see you in the next one.